Hey guys, welcome to the first part of many episodes in my new James Bond retrospective. I know I've covered James Bond in the past through my Shaken Not Stirred series on YouTube, but I don't know, this just seemed like the right time to talk about James Bond for some reason. This is the 10-year anniversary of the year 2007, 007. Get it? See what I did there? And there wasn't a James Bond film released that year. It seems like MGM and Sony really missed a huge opportunity there. But either way, for some reason, I've been just in a James Bond watching mood, I guess. Now, like last time, I'm only going to be doing the 24 Eon produced films. That's Dr. No all the way through Spectre. James Bond is considered to be a legacy franchise, very much like Godzilla, Star Wars, Star Trek, the film franchises that just refuse to die. The franchise started in 1962, and it keeps going strong to this day. Over the years, the tone of these films has changed drastically, but again, that's what I find kind of endearing. One film might be serious and straightforward, and then in the next film you've got a comic book villain, great neat little gadgets, and really bad hokey special effects. In the modern era of Bond, the series has gone back to its more serious roots, but even in the latest film Spectre, they managed to throw in a little humor. The Bond franchise has a legacy that I can't explain. I don't even claim to be a die-hard fan, but even I got sucked into the novelty of a lot of these films. It's been going on since the 60s, and it's still going on to this day. Another thing that's really interesting is they never really stopped making these films, unlike Godzilla and Star Wars, where there have been these huge gaps in between films. I think the longest gap between Bond films was 6 years, between 1989's License to Kill and 1995's GoldenEye. Back in the 60s, as these movies were coming out, every man wanted to be James Bond and every woman wanted to have him. He went on these crazy adventures. He even went into outer space. Yes, 007 himself went where no man has gone before. Anyway, let's get to the first Eon-produced film, Dr. No. It came out in 1962 and was the first film to star Sean Connery as the leading character, James Bond, Agent 007. There's a secret agent that is mysteriously killed off, so MI6, British intelligence, sends Bond to Jamaica to investigate. And eventually it ends up with him finding Dr. No, this mad scientist type, and in his evil lair in Crab Key. Dr. No in this film is played by Joseph Wiseman, and in the film, Dr. No is supposed to be a half-German, half-Chinese evil scientist. He really plays that to type, although Wiseman's performance is really underplayed in this. He's the patient villain in this, but of course, he starts the trend, a long trend of doing something that a lot of the future villains in Bond films do, which is reveal his master plan and underestimating Bond's potential to escape and eventually beat him. Every actor who's played James Bond has tried to add something new to the role to keep it fresh. Many people consider Sean Connery as Bond. Due to his overconfidence and general seriousness, he doesn't make a lot of one-liners. When he does, they're kind of cheeky. He doesn't draw too much attention to them. He also doesn't make a lot of sexual innuendos, which is something that a lot of the later Bonds did with the women. There's something very cool and calculating about Sean Connery. And he also has a wide range of emotions between each film. He can be suave and sophisticated, but he also has a mean streak. He even resorts to hitting women if it justifies the means. The Bond films are nothing if they're not interesting to look at. Over 24 films, you'd think that the stories would be getting stale, but because there's so many films, you really get a sense of different parts of the world. Every film looks different, and this one's no exception. The Jamaican landscape is colorful and beautiful, and most of the film takes place in the daytime, so it's just a very nice-looking film. This movie doesn't have a lot of the gadgets that you'd be accustomed to with Bond films. It's a very straightforward action-adventure thriller, so you've got car chases, you've got explosions, you even have a really cool scene where someone puts a tarantula in Bond's room, and that's a really suspenseful scene. But if you're looking for the cool gadgets and the nifty cars, this probably isn't the best film to start with. It's a very straightforward action film. Now, of course, we have to also talk about the Bond women. In every film, Bond hooks up with a couple of girls, and usually the film ends with him with one of the girls. In this film, the Bond girl is Ursula Andress, who plays Honey Rider. And we first are introduced to her in Crab Key in this really great shot, this famous shot where she comes up from the water at the beach. This shot of Honey Rider instantly became iconic, and because of that, she is one of the most famous Bond girls in the series history. Most of the Bond films are really light on plot. They really mostly focus on the gimmicks like the girls, the fast cars. They're basically the Fast and the Furious of the times. This one, because it is the first film and because so much of it takes place in one location, basically you've got Jamaica and Crab Key, the story is much more streamlined. So it makes for a pretty easy film to follow, which is a good thing. But now the question becomes, is this a good film to start out with if you're a newcomer to the series? I think it depends on your overall expectations, what you're what you're expecting going in. If you're expecting a lot of the comic book villains and the gadgets, I'd probably start with Goldfinger, which came out 2 years later. That's the third installment in the series. Although this one, a lot of people consider one of the best entries. It is a very strong spy film on its own. It's got everything from action to suspense. It's very well acted. It's a very pretty film. And you couldn't hurt to start with this one. It's really good. And a lot of fans consider this one of the best ones in the series. So there you go. Thanks for watching, and please, like it, comment on it if you like it, and stay tuned because I'm planning on more of these throughout the next couple of months. So thanks again for watching and supporting my channel.